Good morning, everyone. This is Food is a Conversation, Alumni Edition, Session 13. Today, my guest interviewee, alumnus, is one of the youngest member of the ecosystem. I am very excited to have him on the talk today. These conversations happen twice a week. And the goal is to introduce all of the ecosystem members who attend any of the educational programs.
Morning.
Hi, Christian. Hi, good morning. I just quickly explain what this is all
Yeah,
about, and then
I won't
we jump
interrupt
right
you.
in. Okay. So the Future Food Institute has a lot of educational programs, including the Food Innovation Master Program, summer schools, and the most recent addition to the list is the Food and Climate Shaper boot camps organized with FAO. We already prototyped these boot camps last year at 3 locations, and Christian is one of the alumni from these boot camps. So as I said, we have these sessions twice a week in different times to make sure that we can cover all time zones. And I encourage everyone to please post questions in the chat. We will make sure that we will answer them at the end. It's a very casual conversation to get to know the person, their local food system, how their experience was on the educational program, and what are their future plans. I think I covered everything. So now, without any further ado, Christian, the stage is yours. Please tell us a bit about yourself.
Yes. So I'm Christian. I'm 19 years old from Denmark, just a bit north of Copenhagen. I finished high school last summer, and for the past year, almost, I've had a gap year, which is also when I first came in touch with Future Food Institute in September when I attended the boot camp on Iceland, which was an amazing experience, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later as well. And then in November, I went to Japan, where I've been for half a year, first during the winter as a ski instructor up in Hokkaido, and then I moved to Tokyo, where I rejoined the Future Food Institute on their Japan project with Chris there, helped out for 2 months, and then I returned home about 3 weeks ago, which has been really nice.
Wow,
So yeah,
pretty busy last year. I would
yes,
say. So
yes, I'm
tell me,
enjoying
how
being
did
home.
you? Oh yeah, sorry. How did you find the Future Food Bootcamp? How did your application happen to the Icelandic bootcamp?
So it was actually through my dad, who's a good friend of Sarah's. So I kind of had a backdoor entrance. So he
Okay.
said, there's this boot camp, it's on Iceland, it's about climate smart oceans. It would be really cool if you joined. Uh, and yeah, I was like, seems a bit big of a challenge for me, so young. But then I said, yeah, let's do it. And then I went, and I'm really happy I did.
So how, because you were, if I'm not mistaken, you were the youngest participant on the boot camp, right?
Yes, so most
Yeah.
people, they were on the other side of university, so that was a bit a bit fun as well. But I think part of it that made it extra good.
Great. So what was your experience? What do you think this boot camp provided you with, especially after finishing high school, maybe not knowing too much about how you can act on climate change or
Mm.
what are the sustainable fishing practices? So what is your take on from the program?
I think, yeah, just the people and the experience was unbelievable, very good. Like as you said, coming not quite new to everything, I kind of felt like just a sponge, constantly being filled with great knowledge and inspiration. Like just listening to other people. I wrote a big assignment on plastic in the oceans during high school, which is kind of depressing reading. But then when I came to Iceland and saw these new practices they had on fishing and new ways of actually benefiting from the ocean and improving it, it was kind of the opposite effect. Like you got more hope, people out there doing good stuff, inspiration, many people who are conscious of how they consume and kind of just living in a more sustainable way. So I
Yeah.
think my biggest takeaway was maybe inspiration rather than concrete knowledge.
Yeah. And do you think that taking this program before you actually go on with maybe further education or deciding what you want to do in the future, do you think that it shaped this path, what you will take in the future? And how did you like this approach, how we educate with inspiration, aspiration, and at the end with kind of prototyping a certain solution, what could be implemented everywhere?
Mm. Yeah, I definitely think it shaped the way I think, and thereby also the way I'll probably do stuff in the future, including work and education. And yeah, I think the way it really had an impact was by this inspiration approach. So it was not just like sitting down in a classroom listening, it was more engaging. So even if it was in a room, it was more of a discussion or conversation always. And like the stuff we went out to see, companies, businesses, we went whale watching as well. Just experiences that I think make a greater impact on you.
Yeah. So obviously now with COVID, our format for the boot camps slightly changed.
Mm,
And although we plan 9 sessions or 9 boot camps, physical boot camps at certain different locations for this year, obviously with travel regulation and safety first approach, this won't necessarily take place in the same format. And that's why
mm,
we developed the digital bootcamp. And that's just a bit of an advertisement for now, because we figured out how could we make these experiences still available, given from the first hand, from the local community, delivered on a digital tool, but to a broader audience. So if
mm,
we look at it this way, we will be able to actually host multiple attendees or more attendees on this digital bootcamp and introduce multiple locations. So I encourage everyone to reach out to us if you want to get to know a bit more about the digital bootcamp happening this July.
you
And
should.
yes, and the website will be also updated very soon. For now, you can still see the original plan. But away from the advertisement for this year, there was a specific topic, as Christian also mentioned, which was climate smart oceans. This is one of the 4 tracks what we build the boot camps around. Besides climate smart farming, climate smart cities, and regenerative kitchens. This was mainly dependent on the location and what the community is active in. But now with the digital bootcamp is kind of overlapping all 4 tracks. So, Christian, you mentioned that after the bootcamp, you decided to go to Japan and ski instruct. So a lot of different experiences.
Yes.
How was this your first time in Japan?
I had been 10 days the same summer, so last summer as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
But first time in Hokkaido. Japan's such a wide country. It's very different where you are. And first
Yeah.
time living abroad as well, except since when I was very young.
Okay.
So,
So tell me, how was that as a cultural experience, as like emerging in a country? I don't know. I assume at that point you didn't necessarily speak Japanese.
no,
So how was this experience for you?
very interesting, I think. I think that was together with the skiing, of course, at least for the first part, which was very fun. I think that was the best part of it, trying to immerse yourself in another culture. And I think it's definitely something I'll look to do in the future as well. Because compared to just traveling to a country, it's a very different way of experiencing it, I'd say. You get more under the skin, working with Japanese people every day. Like, how are their everyday life? How are they as a people? More of. I think it just adds another layer to the experience. So I think that's definitely a great way of experiencing a country and something I'll do again. Definitely.
Yeah. So then you moved to Tokyo and joined Chris, who will be actually
Yes.
one of the guests next week or over the next weeks, because he's also an
Mm.
alumni of one of the boot camps actually, and running now the chapter of Future Food in Tokyo. So in this way, you had an experience about the Japanese food culture from a consumer perspective, and
Mm.
you could also maybe get involved in other innovation projects through the Future Food Network. So could you please tell us a bit about these experiences?
Yeah. Japan, I'd say it has contrasted food culture. So in many ways, they have a traditional approach, which also in many ways is very good. Traditionally, Japan and Japanese people have a close connection to nature, and thereby also respect nature and the food that they eat, and are very conscious about how they produce. But then again, they also have some other influences. For example, they have extremely high hygiene, which means a lot of plastic as well. Uh, so that's kind of the other side of the Japanese food coin, I'd say. There's both some really interesting habits and some less good habits. But yeah, it's a great kitchen. I think I love ramen, curries. It's very enjoyable, and yeah, they have. No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, 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 all good. So I was just thinking you actually were in Japan when this whole COVID-19 situation kicked off, right?
Mm,
Because you mentioned you only got back to Europe a few weeks ago.
yeah.
So how did that influence the food supply? Did you see any changes on supermarket shelves, or did you see any changes in terms of how people procured their food?
Um, in Tokyo, not a lot, I'd say, because they didn't go in lockdown, or actually they haven't really been in lockdown at all. But when they started closing down, it was at the very end of my stay. So actually, most of the time it felt quite normal, even though there was the whole COVID thing. But then restaurants started closing. Definitely people started stockpiling a bit, I felt, when it was just announced. Um, and yeah, I know maybe not much has changed for the consumers, but I know the farmers have really struggled because of this, because they haven't been able to get into the cities to sell all of their stuff. And they've kind
Yeah,
of been stuck in the rural areas with all of their crops. So that's been a big
that's
problem, I know.
crazy. Yeah.
Mm,
So that means that maybe you as a consumer don't really realize anything on the supermarket shelves, but actually your supply is coming from a different source because you don't have that local food, that hyper local
mm,
food what COVID
yeah.
actually is trying to push us towards, but then certain regulations can influence your supply on a very intense way.
Mm,
And some of them is happening in the background or behind the scenes because let's be honest, our supply chain is not transparent enough for us
mm,
without
no.
putting more effort in digging into the origin of your food. You don't even realize if something is changing on the shelf.
Mm,
So that is definitely one of the weaknesses of our supply chain, what has been highlighted over the last few weeks and maybe even made more clear to consumers as well, and not only to people who were anyway active trying to change these systems in the past. Do you know about, by any chance, I'm not sure, do you know about any initiative which was trying to help these farmers to make sure that all this produce what they had surplus of won't go to waste?
I know they started making direct deliveries as well, which I think if they could get that up and going, that would be great. Straight from the farm to the consumer. I think that would make even better food, great for the farmers to cut some of the middlemen out. Uh, but yeah, I know that's part of what we tried to figure out in the end at the Future Food as well, how we could help some of these farmers and producers who are really struggling to continue their supply or supplying.
Yeah.
So I'm not I don't know of a specific one in Japan. We have one in Denmark, one we
Yeah.
subscribe to in my family called Grim, or Grim in Danish,
Okay.
which basically connects the consumer to the farmers, and then all of the produce that they can't sell, either because it's wonky shapes or like maybe a little bit of damage on the peel or weird color, then it gets sent over perfectly fine vegetables and stuff, but stuff that would otherwise have been thrown out because of minor things, then that gets sold and spread out still, and that way eliminate food waste and also directly supplying consumers from the farmers. So I think that's a great concept we have here.
So what does the word mean? What the name of the...
Ugly.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I see.
So
I see.
the ugly vegetables.
And as you said, you live a tiny bit north from Copenhagen. Are they outreach only in the city, urban areas, or they are also supplying rural, rather like not metropolitan areas as well?
I think they're nationwide. Yeah.
Okay,
So
that's nice
it's
because
yeah.
I see that as a problem, to be honest, in other countries, that you have access to all these initiatives in city contexts, but unfortunately not on the countryside. In the meanwhile, we have a question. I'm so excited about that. Esmeralda is asking, besides supply chain, will there be more a movement to local, closer to home, less going to factories to make products and directly to consumers? Okay, so if I understand the question right, the question is if food production or manufacturing will happen maybe closer to homes. If I read the question properly, that's going to
That's how I understand it as well.
Yeah, so I would say I think we have a lot of initiatives pushing people forward, like towards making their own on sourdough or on fermentation at home. However, I do believe that especially during the last few months, this could happen on such a big scale because people were at home and their time was completely like spent differently. So I do believe there will be maybe a bit slowing down in this trend. However, now people know what like gratification they got from this. And we also see a lot of initiatives where actually growing is happening closer to the homes as well. So if we look at, and I'm not saying saying this is the right solution for every context. This is very important, what we always learn during these educational programs as well, that there are certain solutions, but they have to be adjusted to the local context. But if we look at vertical farms and urban farming practices, they can actually shorten the distance between the production or the growing and the end consumers. I really like to bring up the example of Hong Kong, where you actually have more growing surface on rooftops than on the land. So they had to introduce all these urban farming practices in order to have more fresh and local food, because they actually imported also a lot. So I really hope, Esmeralda, we could answer your question. And very similar initiatives of ugly fruits and vegetables are popping up in different countries all over the world now. So that's very nice to see. I also see some of the supermarkets finally being a bit less strict in terms of their quality assurance, because the problem with these veggies and fruits were that they didn't get accepted to be put on the shelf because maybe they were a bit more curly than others. So I think this is very important that we as consumers also accept and know when a product is consumable, because if we go to the supermarket, everyone opts for the shiny and most perfect item at the end.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, we are back to our questions. Sorry, we got a bit off track. I got so excited about the question. Thank you, Esmeralda. So if we look at your future plans, besides the very near future, which is that you will be part of the digital bootcamp as one of the local hosts. I'm so
Yes.
excited about it. So watch out, because Christian will also provide some global discoveries from his home country. And so what's next? What will happen after this gap year is over?
I'm gonna take another gap year.
All right, that sounds
I
good.
haven't got enough of it. Yeah, I'm not quite sure yet what I want to study. I still have a very broad range of interests, so kind of working towards narrowing down a bit. But yeah, hopefully follow a bit of the same model as I did this year,
Mm-hmm.
uh, doing stuff similar to the boot camps, maybe even joining one again next year. I think would be great. Uh, and yeah, looking to work abroad, hopefully do some meaningful work. Uh, I've been considering quite heavily some volunteer work in a cool place. I also have my photography, which is one of my big hobbies. So if I could get a photography friendly place and then do some goodwill on the side as well, I think that would be the ideal for my gap year.
That sounds
I don't know
really
if you know
interesting.
any good places.
Not at this very moment, but if it comes to my mind, I will know how to reach you, because I am not like, I would not be able to tell you if a place is photography friendly. But tell me, how did this hobby develop? When did you start making photos?
A couple, maybe 3, 4 years ago with my phone, always when we went on family holidays, I was
Mhm.
documenting everything. And then I got a, a real camera, so to say, a couple of years ago. Started working on it. Uh, and yeah, I really like creating and like curating the aesthetic of a photo. Sounds a bit fancy. But yeah, and kind of capturing some of the stuff that I've been experiencing, because I've been quite lucky so far, travel-wise and seeing stuff. So kind of capturing that and the people and the culture that I'm meeting. I think it's a really great way of both sharing and kind of also remembering it yourself.
Yeah. I think it's such a great way how you approach your future, to be honest. I wish when I was your age and I had to decide what will be my major, or like what will I
Mm,
study on university. I'm not sure if you, when you are 18, 19, you actually know what you want to do for the rest of your life. And
mm,
I think it's a very important point that getting hands-on experiences can actually help you
yeah.
to make these decisions. And also, once you make a decision, that's not forever.
Mm,
I encourage everyone to pursue the path what they choose. But if something doesn't work out, or you find something what interests you more, why not change, or why not broaden your experiences? And well, I must say, learned it on my own experience. I feel that we have a really multi-potentialate profile, especially with having this inspirational way of looking at things and
mm,
identifying human needs, what we want to find solutions for. It doesn't necessarily need to be only food. It can be also other industries or other parts of our life, what can be useful. At the end of the day, the purpose is to solve a human need or a human problem. So yeah, go ahead with your gap year. Maybe we should not call it a gap year anymore because
no.
it's just your lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So I saw that one of our someone from the audience posted actually something for you, what you should check out. It's called woofing. Thank you so much for
Woofing.
the tip.
Mm,
So maybe something for
I
your
will.
next year. Yes.
Yeah.
So, as a closing question, now we talked about COVID and how food changed, and I think Denmark is pretty much getting back to normal.
Yeah.
Restaurants and bars are reopening, maybe on a different and lower volume or
Yeah.
lower uh, your, and that may be specifically on food and the food systems. How do you imagine that?
Sorry, you fell out. I didn't hear the
Oh,
question.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question
Sorry.
is if you would need to draw your preferred future, specifically for food systems and your food consumption, how would that look like?
You say my ideal food future?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, hmm. Yeah, I think in Denmark there's been a great focus during COVID on supporting more locally. So I
Mm-hmm.
hope that will continue, especially with the farmer consumer connection, to get some fresh food, just tastes better, feels better. Hopefully continue that, and then yeah, growing some stuff as well ourselves. We have a greenhouse, which is exciting. Some of the best food
Nice.
we get from there. Uh, Try practice my cooking skills, be able to make simple, healthy dishes from sustainable produce. I think that's the ideal I have. Maybe on
That's
a
good.
more global scale, move, as I said, towards more local foods, less straining foods climate-wise. So a bit less how do you say? Oh, never mind. Less meat, stuff like that.
Okay.
Just eat in a way that makes more sense, I think.
That's great. So let's hope education will also support this. So already when you are in a younger age, you will actually know how your food is grown and
Mm,
how all these actions can be taken in the future.
yeah,
So Christian, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation.
me too.
For the audience also, thank you for being here, posting your questions and all your tips. And please
Yes.
follow these sessions in the future. As I said, it's always on Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. And Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Central European Time. After all the Instagram changes, this session and everything from now on will be posted immediately on our IGTV. So if you didn't have the chance to listen or watch the whole session, it's there to and available, and please share, because if you found something insightful in these conversations, you should not keep this information for yourself, and this is available to share it on every channel possible, so your friends, family, and your network will know about future food and how we can build our sustainable food future. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
You too, Julia. Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye.